Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today, of course, is Thursday, January the 15th, 26. So hopefully everybody's having a good week thus far. Of course, we'll wait a few minutes for people to come in. If you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, um, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions the best of my ability. Like I said, we're just waiting for people to come in. So today I was watching, of course, some more cartoons from 1944. In this case, August of 1944. Um, you know, including the last cartoon that was produced by Leon Schlesinger before he retired, as in July he sold his studios to Warner Brothers that would promptly rename Warner Brothers Cartoon, with, of course, Ed Seltzer taking over as producer. The last cartoon produced by Leon Schlesinger was Buckaroo Bug, in which he would rob a town of all its carrots in its victory garden, and Red Hot Rhino would have to you know, try to get him. So, and let's see now. Let's see. So as I said, we're just waiting on people to show up here. So, um, see. They saw a nice little Lulu cartoon where it's nifty to be thrifty, which her father was trying to teach her the value of saving her money for a rainy day. Um, saw gems. Hmm. So, anyways, with all that being said, of course, let's see now. Now it's 3 minutes. So let me talk about what's on tap for tonight. Then, so we are going to go over one article from that Park Place, in which there is a comic that's coming out from a couple of guys. Daughter's Revenge graphic novel. We're going to be looking at that article. Also, part of the reason why we're only doing one article tonight, of course, is because we got quite a bit of wrestling news to go over. Aside from usual stuff like last night's Dynamite, as well as looking ahead to tonight's Thursday night Impact. As tonight, of course, TNA will be premiering on the AMC network, Ring of Honor, and we have some other big news coming out of all that as well. Um, and then we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. So, with all that being said, again, one last friendly reminder before we get going here. If you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. That goes for both my Rumble and my YouTube viewers. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get going here. Let me grab the article that we'll be covering tonight. All right, so frustrated with Hollywood, creators of Daughter's Revenge graphic novel aim to inspire. Article published January 12th, which was this past Monday, by and authored by Trevor Denning. So let's get into this then. Um, a new graphic novel, both out of frustration with the agenda driven and uninspired stories Hollywood is producing. I'm sorry. A new graphic novel born out of frustration with the agenda driven and uninspired stories Hollywood is producing, is promising readers the opportunity to go on a fresh adventure with new characters. Daughter's Revenge is a pirate story about an honorable man, Jonathan Reed, who is thrust into an impossible situation. Finding his world no longer rewards virtues. Sound familiar? That actually sounds exactly like what's going on in this world right now, right? As I've commented several times, it's relaying the biblical scripture from, I believe it's Isaiah. There will come a point when right will be called wrong and wrong will be called right. I think we're in that time now. Reed must decide if he will continue to live according to his beliefs or become like the pirates he once. Russ Morgan, in parentheses here, known online as Drunk 3PO and X-Wing, respectively. So Drunk 3PO, I know that one, that guy I know has been on Yellow Flashcast on a few occasions. Telling not a good story, but one that would inspire was their first and foremost priority. Artist Eric Hodgson joined them, providing images to provide their epic appropriate scale, scope, and weight of authenticity. Quote, I wanted to tell a story of a Christian man who was put in a situation that forced his hand to do things that he normally wouldn't do, unquote, Jay said. So that's very interesting. And again, as I brought up the the scripture from Isaiah, when I started into this article here, talking about you know talking about the idea of talking about the idea of um, of right being called wrong and wrong being called right. Jay said, quote, a man of faith whose faith is tested, unquote. A journey of hope born out of frustration. Jay said that his disgust and aggravation with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny made him want to do something. Quote, I called X-Wing immediately and I said, man, what if we did our own story? Let's just do a pirate Indiana Jones story where they all of a sudden that quick conversation turned into, in smaller quotes here, I think we got an outline here for a pretty cool trilogy, unquote, Jay added. In the beginning, Jay and Russ were unsure what format Daughter's Revenge or Daughter's Revenger. The Daughter's Revenger or Daughter's Revenge? So somebody did a typo here, I think. Somebody I think did a typo. Anyways, Daughter's Revenge would take. Quote, the most important thing was that we just come up with a story first, unquote, Russ said. Then, then that turned into a novella, which then turned into a script for a graphic novel. Russ, who says writing has always been a passion, took the lead, though he had never published a story. He said that the phone call from Jay ignited him. Quote, I was like, in smaller quote, let's do it, smaller quote. I bet we can make something special here, and I think we did, unquote. Huh. Very aged Harrison Ford there with, from I guess the latest Indiana Jones movie. It was a collaboration process from start to finish. Jay, who has written several successful graphic novels, helped with the formatting and brought on Hudson, whom he had worked with in the past, to do the art. Quote, we took direction from him when it came to scripting, unquote. Jay said, quote, he was crucial in marketing and making everything better, unquote. Their shared vision ultimately set the course as Daughter's um, Revenge took shape. Again, is it Daughter's Revenge or Daughter's Revenger? Hmm. That would probably help a lot of people if they knew what the title exactly was. Pushing through pain. While the story is rooted in history, Hodson's craftsmanship brings Daughter's Revenge into vivid reality. Quote, I wanted my art to look like it was done with a brush and ink and be gritty, unquote, Hodson said. Quote, the onomatopoeia, um, those aren't fonts. Those are all hand drawn, unquote. And for those of you who don't know what that term means, an onomatopoeia is basically it's like it's like what it's like a word for a sound, right? So you see a lot of them in comics, right, where boom, you know, a word that is actually the name of a sound, basically, and it's um like the word boom is for boom, and it sounds like a boom, bang, you know that's what an onomatopoeia is. Uh, onomatopoeia. Try saying that word 3 times fast, folks. Hodgson developed an autoimmune disease while in art school that severely limits mobility in his hands, the tools of his trade. Quote, I cried out to God, like, please don't take my hands. That's all I got, unquote. Hodgson said, quote, I had this dream of being a comic book artist, and if I lose this, I don't have much of an identity. And he took my hands and made me a better artist than I was before they got crippled. I give all glory for that, unquote. So obviously, these are. Here's another group of Christians, much like our friend Rick Piper, you know, who are putting their faith out there in their work. So the final year he spent drawing the comic continued to be marked by difficulty. Quote, my dad passed away in July, and our colorist mom passed away, unquote, Hodgson said. Quote, so last year we got this book done, while probably all suffering one of the worst times in our lives, unquote. Well, you know what they say, God can make, can make miracles, right? You know, out of the deepest darkness, God can shed the light that will lead you down the path you should go. Hmm. Still, everyone involved had the passion to see the project through. Quote, that just shows you the power of God bringing us together wanting this story, unquote, he said. Daughter's Revenge will be available in a full color edition and a black and white artist edition. Quote, I encourage everybody to get both editions, unquote, Hodgson said. Quote, because you're going to see something different in both formats, unquote. But when he there and the title kind of grabs my attention, Daughter's Revenge. I wonder if, at least within the story, if something happened to the protagonist's daughter to where he feels the need to get revenge on her behalf. It's just kind of makes you wonder, I guess. The Represent campaign offers multiple covers, foil editions, flags, apparel, an alternate cover by former Marvel artist Irene Strachowski. What the creators hope comes through in either edition is an enjoyable story that leaves them inspired and wanting more. A call to adventure. Quote, I would love for people to enjoy an adventure story and just smile when they hit the last page and say, in smaller quotes, when's the next one? Unquote, Jay said. Again, I'm kind of intrigued a bit. Daughters of again, the title itself is kind of intriguing. Does make you kind of wonder what he's thinking there. And again, a friendly reminder to everybody, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Getting back to the article here. Quote, we wanted to make a story where people came out of it almost like they were coming out of a theater watching Star Wars or a movie from the 80s or the 90s, where you just felt like a little inspired, unquote, Russ said. Quote, you realize, in small quotes, oh, I've been gone for the past 2 hours. Where have I been? Yeah, that's in entertainment like that's always fun to lose yourself in those worlds that people create, right? And you kind of snap back to reality and you look nostalgically back on that story even 15 years later. Let me see. And you're just stoked and you want to go back to that universe, unquote. The rallying cry online is often, quote, stop giving money to people who hate you and your values, unquote. With Daughter's Revenge, readers feeling disenfranchised by the legacy studios have the opportunity to step outside the mainstream bubble and explore a world with a story designed to inspire and affirm their beliefs. But there's a deeper intention that Hodgson hopes goes beyond the pages of the book. Quote, I hope it inspires people to get a sense of their own adventure, unquote. Um, Hodgson added, quote, and to know that even in the darkest of times, they can have hope, unquote. And then a little thing here, Daughter's Revenge is now available for a limited 30-day pre-order campaign through Riversend, with all orders shipping in quarter 2 of 2026. Hmm. Yeah, as I was saying too, the um the title itself is kind of intriguing to me. I wonder if it does truly have anything to do with me. I don't know if maybe the protagonist's daughter, something happened to her, and now he's trying to get revenge for her or something like that. I wonder if that's plays into it a little bit, um, but as I said, let me see now. 21 minutes could well maybe I could do another story. I guess I could do another story, yes. But it still is a little early here in terms of. Let me go see if I can find something else here. Oh, actually, now that okay, maybe I will do those two tomorrow then. All right. Well, actually, something. I think I will go ahead and move on to the wrestling raffle because, as I said, earlier, um, there is actually quite a bit of there is actually quite a bit of news coming out of there is actually quite a bit of news coming out of the wrestling world in the past few days here. So first up, let me address something with, of course, last night's Dynamite and as well as the tapings for Saturday's Collision happening last night. It has been recently revealed that with these two shows, it looks like Powerhouse Hobbs's contract has set to. I guess it's set to expire. I think tonight at midnight. Um, Making him a free agent, and there has been some speculation that he may go to the WWE, as WWE has had their eye on him for quite some time. Again, these are only only speculations, of course, but we'll have to wait and see as time goes on with it. Also, some more news coming out in regards to the Chris Jericho stuff. So now it was just reported that I guess Chris Jericho will be on a European tour with his band Fozzy. I guess sometime in February. So it has been, now through February. So while there was a lot of speculation that maybe he'll make his return to WWE on the first Monday Night Raw of 2026, and there's also been some speculation he'll make his return to WWE at Royal Rumble. They're now speculating he might make his return to WWE at Elimination Chamber after his. So things are still kind of up in the air with Chris Jericho. So we'll wait to see on that. So, and at least in some of the WWE news out there, and there's been some other moves we'll talk about, some other organizations as well. Let's now go to, of course, last night, talk about what happened on last night's AEW Dynamite, which, of course, last night's Dynamite was live from the Arizona Financial Theater in in Phoenix, Arizona, with Bryan Danielson and Excalibur on commentary, and of course, I believe Ricochet, the AEW National Champion, Ricochet and Don Callis joining them for the number one contenders four-way match for the for number one contender. Anyways, the show opened up with a match between Darby Allin and the Death Riders Pac, in which Darby Allin worked over the leg of Pac throughout the match, and at 11:03 got the tap out victory from Pac, from the Bastard Pac. Then you had Adam Page defeat Brian Keith in 9:25, as Big Bill was out in the corner of Brian Keith, as Big Bill continually tried to interfere in the match. Eventually, Swerve Strickland and Prince Nana would come out to counter Big Bill's interference, leading to eventually Adam Page being able to finish the match by hitting the buckshot lariat on Brian Keith at the 9:25 mark. After the match, of course, Kenny Omega came out, and there was some exchanges between the three men, Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, and Swerve Strickland, as they all basically were setting their sights on MJF and the AEW World Title. You had, of course, Omega and Page shake hands with Page acknowledging, "Hey, look, we're all going after the same thing. If you and I happen to cross paths, I more or less respect you, but I'm not gonna be holding back, So, and then after, of course, Swerve and Page left the ring, I believe that's when Don Callis, members of the Don Callis family, with as he was joined by Josh Alexander, Rocky Romero, and Lance Archer, came out to confront Kenny Omega, and kind of reminding Kenny that he can't just be expected to be handed a shot. He has to actually win against some quality opponent, and therefore they ended up setting a match for Saturday's Collision between the walking weapon, Josh Alexander, and the cleaner, Kenny Omega. Then next up, Brody King had a squash match against John Cruz in 37 seconds. That was a real quick match, and then we get to a number one contendership four-way match for the AEW World Tag Team titles. For 4 teams will be competing for the chance to face FTR for the AEW World Tag Team titles. This is a match where both Ricochet and Don Callis joined Bryan Danielson and Excalibur on commentary, as of course you had one team from Don Callis family, and of course Ricochet's demand teammate involved in this match, as the team of Mark Davis and Jake Doyle of the Don Callis, just simply going by the names Davis and Doyle. Doyle, marking his recent debut in AEW. As we had mentioned before, of course, Jake Doyle being the formerly known as Jake something TNA. When his contract came up with TNA, he had signed with with AEW. We've already talked about that. Davis and Doyle had defeated the Gates of Agony of Bishop Con Toileona of The Demand, the team of Jet Speed of Speedball Mike Daly and the Jet Kevin Knight, and the Young Bucks of Matt and Nick Jackson. After the match, of course, FTR came out to confront Davis and Doyle, and it did lead to led to the point to where security had to come out and separate the two teams. So we should be seeing a match between Davis and Doyle and FTR in the near future for the AEW World Tag Team titles. And a 6-woman tag match pitting AEW Women's World Champion Chris Statlander and AEW Women's World Tag Team Champions Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale, known as the Babes of Wrath, as well as Willow Nightingale being the TBS champion, taking on the Triangle of Madness of Sky Blue, Julia Hart, and Tekla. Triangle of Madness defeated the championship teams, with Tekla getting the pin on Chris Statlander, feeling the possibility of a match between the two in the near future. Then in the main event, MJF was able to retain the AEW World Title over Bandito by a referee's decision at 19 minutes 42 seconds, when Bandito was unable to respond to the referee after having been locked in the crossface submission hold by MJF. After the match, MJF initially seemed like he was going to do something good and acknowledge the fact that Bandito was a future world champion. But then he ended up attacking Bandito and trying to unmask him, only for Brody King to make the save. So that's all that happened on last night's Hey there, Fitzgerald. Thanks for dropping in. That's all that happened on last night's AEW Dynamite. We'll, of course, talk about what's coming up on Saturday's Collision on tomorrow's Wrestling Wrap-Up. Now to move on to some TNA news. The big news, of course, coming out of TNA, first and foremost, is the fact that tonight will be the premiere of 30 Night Impact on AMC, as it was announced late last year that TNA had signed a deal with AMC to start showing the Impact program on AMC. Tonight is the tonight will be the, of course, debut of Impact on AMC. Let's see now. Now, of course, there over the week here, there have been some signings. So before we get into one match that was originally announced for the premiere episode of 30 Night Impact on AMC that was canceled was Leon Slater defending the X Division title against the Rascals' Myron Reed. The reason for that is the Rascals had their contract had come up, and they had decided to leave TNA. So Zachary Wentz, Trey Miguel, Desmond Xavier, and Myron Reed. Now, it was also speculated that Myron Reed was possibly working without a contract with TNA. So the Rascals have left TNA and are no longer with them. So we'll probably, we don't know as of yet where we'll see them next. I don't know. They could show up in AEW. They could show up in Major League Wrestling, maybe, or just on the independent scene altogether. So now, yeah, they and we had talked about already how Jake Doyle and Priscilla Kelly, not Priscilla Kelly, but Killer Kelly, had both also recently left TNA. And now a number of people did re-sign with the company, including Mustafa Ali, Jody Threat, the hometown man, Cody Deaner. Had a number of people recently re-sign with the company. There are some speculations that we might have some surprise appearances tonight. It has been confirmed, of course, that AJ Styles will be on the program tonight. There's some speculation that he and Leon Slater will probably have some kind of exchange. We'll have to wait and see. And that it was also announced this week that Joe Hendry will be making his return to TNA at this Saturday's Genesis pay-per-view. So so for tonight's Impact on AMC, the debut of TNA Thursday Night Impact on AMC, coming live from the Curtis Colwell Center in Garland, Texas. The matches that are scheduled for tonight's show include a 6-man tag match between Elijah and Elijah teaming with TNA World Tag Team Champions the Hardys, Matt Hardy, against Order 4 of Mustafa Ali and the great hands of Jason Hotch and John Schuyler. It's kind of being a prelude to Elijah and Mustafa Ali's upcoming match at the Saturday's Genesis. In a match for the TNA Knockouts World, the first of two title matches for the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team titles, the Elegance brand will be getting their contractual rematch. Heather and M by Elegance, with the personal concierge in their corner, will be taking on the current champs, the Inspiration, Cassie Lee and Jessie McKay, as this will be the the Elegance brand's contractual rematch. And in the main event, we'll see in a match for the TNA World title, Frankie Kazarian will be defending against former champ Mike Santana, as he will also be cashing in his contractual rematch. And what happened? Excuse me there. Earlier today, it was announced that Nick Nemeth had re-signed with TNA, as he had promised to cash in his Call Your Shot opportunity at the world title against the winner of tonight's main event. Now, it's also been announced that on tonight's premiere episode of Thursday Night Impact on Impact on AMC, that Bully Ray will be making an appearance. He'll be doing guest commentary for the main event. There's some speculation that he might try to help keep Nick Nemeth from cashing in or helping Mike Santana win. We don't know all the details yet, but at least right now, it looks like Bully Ray will be involved in terms of at least doing guest commentary for the world title match. And of course, I will also go over tomorrow. I've been going over the results from tonight's Thursday Night Impact, which actually starts right after my show at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific on AMC. Let's see. We'll also be talking about, of course, Saturday's Genesis pay-per-view tomorrow, going over the matches, going over the final match card, as it were. Many matches have already been signed, including, as I said, the aforementioned Mustafa Ali versus Elijah match. The Hardys are set to take on the Righteous, as they are defending the TNA World Tag Team. Go over the full card tomorrow. And now also looking ahead to tonight's Ring of Honor on Ring of Honor TV. Tonight's ROH on Honor Club, coming from the Esports Stadium, Arlington, Texas, with Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni on commentary. Lance Archer is set to take on a mystery opponent in that, let's see, in an 8-man tag match. Aaron Solo, QT Marshall, and the Von Erichs, Marshall and Ross Von Erich, team up to take on the Frat House. Of course, Griff Garrison, Jack Jameson, Cole Carter, and Preston Vance. The Swirl of Blake Christian and Lee Johnson with Jay Lethal in their corner will be taking on Dark Order of Alex Reynolds and Evil Uno. Shane Taylor of Shane Taylor Promotions with Anthony Ogogo, Carly Bravo, Sean Dean, Trish Dora in his corner will be taking on Karen Gray. The Spanish Announce Project and Helico and Serpentico will be taking on the Grizzled Young Veterans of James Drake and Zach Gibson. In a proving ground match for a shot at the Ring of Honor Women's World Television title, Red Velvet tries to fend off the challenge of Robin Renegade. And then the main event, we'll see in a mixed 6-man tag team match. The Infantry from Shane Taylor Promotions of Carly Bravo, Sean Dean, and Trish Adora will be taking on M&M TV's Mansoor, Mason Madden, and Taya Valkyrie. So that's all we got for the wrestling wrap up. As I said, we'll be back with more news tomorrow on that. We will, as we do have, and well, tomorrow, of course, on tomorrow's wrestling wrap up, we'll of course look back to tonight's Thursday Night Impact, as well as and Ring of Honor Club, as well as looking ahead to the upcoming weekend's action, including SmackDown, WWE SmackDown, Collision on AEW on Saturday, and of course the Genesis pay-per-view. Now with that being said, let's see, anything more I can say? I guess not. So I guess now that we've got through all the wrestling wrap up, today is, of course, as we said, Thursday, January the 15th, 2026. Of course, today is at least the actual birthday of MLK Jr., I believe, but the observance will be on Monday. So just a little tidbit there. But with today being Thursday, January 15th, 2025 or 2026 rather, let's go ahead and take a look back at this date in each history. History! So, let's see, 1946, 1996, and 1966. All right. All right, so first off, we're going to head back 80 years ago today. On this date, 80 years ago today, back in 1946, 1946, the 45th issue of Exciting Comics from Standard went on sale on this date back in 1946. Sold for 10 cents and was 48 pages. Of course, the black, featuring the black cover, the Black Terror, who was the main feature of this comic at that time. So, this day, 80 years ago today, the 45th issue of Exciting Comics from Standard, featuring the Black Terror, sold for 10 cents, is 48 pages. Let's see now. Now, as we get ready to move on to the next piece in each history, as we move ahead to the year 1966, 60 years ago today, on this date, 66 years ago today. Let's see. Chuck Jones' Tom and Jerry cartoon Dual Personality premiered in movie theaters on this date 60 years ago today. So, 60 years ago today, the Tom and Jerry cartoon, Dual Personality premiered in movie theaters. Let's see if we can find some. Okay, so yeah. All it says here is that. All right. Let me see if I can. So, Tom and Jerry face off in a series of duel scenarios using everything from slingshots to swords to cannons. Of course, it starred the voices of. So, at this point, 1986, starred the voices of June Foray as Tom, Mel Blanc as Jerry's laughter, and then Tom's marching talk was provided by Chuck Jones. Chuck Jones and Michael Maltese did the writing on this show. It was directed by Chuck Jones and Maurice Noble. So that happened 60 years ago. So 60 years ago today, the Tom and Jerry short Dual Personality premiered in theaters on this date back in 1966, 60 years ago. All right, and finally, as we move ahead to the year 1996, while WWE hosted a taped Raw on for the go home episode of to that year's Royal Rumble, WCW was holding a live show, doing a live show on TNT. On this date 30 years ago today, coming from the Knight Center in Miami, Florida, WCW held its Monday Night Raw event with, of course, Bobby Heenan, Eric Bischoff, and Steve McMichael on commentary. Of course, this was still well before the whole NWO angle came about. The show opened up with Lex Luger defeating Randy Savage in 5 minutes 10 seconds. In tag team action, former four-time ECW World Tag Team Champions Public Enemy, Johnny Grunge and Rocco Rock defeated the defeated the team of the American males of Marcus Alexander Bagwell and Scotty Riggs in a match for the WCW World Heavyweight title. Ric Flair, with Jimmy Hart in his corner, would retain over Sting in 12 minutes. And then in the main event, Hulk Hogan defeated Meng in 4 minutes 41 seconds. Who had, of course, the Taskmaster in his corner. So in the WWE time, of course, this was, and I know that Rick was talking about this on his show earlier today, talking about how he stopped watching around the Attitude Era, which would have been around this time. Attitude Era for the WWE was that era that started with when it started really in in I believe June of 1996 during the culmination of the 1996 King of the Ring, where Austin, of course, introduced us to the whole idea of Austin 316. So with all that being said, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Of course, we'll be back here with more Niche News tomorrow. Also, of course, this Sunday I'll be joined by Rex Christian from Devil Fly Momentum, as we'll be taking another trip down Comics History Lane. Yeah, bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey, Joseph. Be taking another trip down Comics History Lane. Be continuing our journey through July of 1940. We'll be looking back at comics that went on sale from Novelty Press. We're looking at Blue Bolt Comics number 4 and Target Comics number 8. We'll be looking at such features as Dick Cole, Sub-Zero Man, Space Hawk, and Bill Wayne. Those are the features. Christian from Devil Flyer will be my co-host for the evening. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.